everybody, this is the Wikstrand. So whenever a movie comes out that is sort of a reboot or remake or, uses an IP of some description, my first thought is always, who asked for this? And very few movies comes as close to who the fuck asked for this than this movie. I watched this movie with very low expectations, and because of it, or despite of it, I don't know which one it was, I actually found this movie to be not good, essentially, but not bad either. Apparently a lot of people really like this movie. I think they, have put on a lot of nostalgia goggles before they saw that. If you put them on really well, I think you will find this movie to be really good. But I cannot overlook some of the things that made me really cross when I watched this movie. But there was also some of these things that was really good. What were they, and what are they going to do in this movie? That's what we're gonna find out. This is my review of Rescue Rangers. Chip and Dale's Rescue Rangers takes place in a world where humans and cartoon characters live side by side. Kind of like a Who Framed Roger Rabbit kind of a scenario. And Chip and Dale's are no longer friends. We do get a sort of flashback to when they met in school in the 80s. That's the cartoon characters age in the same way as humans, by the way? Don't ask those sort of questions. It will just create more questions, and then you will ask, who makes these, bottles and phones and stuff like that are tailored towards the cartoon characters. Are they different sort of sizes and stuff like that? That is the sort of things you cannot think too much of, otherwise you will not make any sense of this movie whatsoever. Anyway, I got a little sidetracked there. So the TV show was cancelled after Dale decided he wants to strike out on his own and wanted to do something else and stuff like that, leaving the rest of the crew high and dry, which drove a wedge between Chip and Dale. I always liked Chip more than Dale. I found Dale to be very annoying, and in the way that they split up made me hate fucking Dale even more. But anyway, so Dale didn't really succeed, in his solo projects, and even though he has, gone under the knife and, done cosmic surgery to himself, creating a 3D version of himself to make himself more marketable, but that doesn't really work either. At the same time as this is happening, Chip sells insurances and have a comedically large dog as his best friend, but he lives alone and is kind of, stuck up. And one day he gets a visit from his old frenemy Dale, who tells him that Monterey Jack has been kidnapped. There is apparently an evil organization that is, run by this evil doer called Sweet Pete. And they have kidnapped him to, make pirate versions of him, essentially. It's almost kind of a human trafficking situation, which at times actually was kind of gruesome. And Dale wants Chip to help him find Monterey Jack. Now, Chip doesn't really want to do that because he still holds grudges against Dale for what happens, and we're not actual detectives. You're an actor, I was an actor, now I sell insurances. But Dale thinks that they can do this because, we played detectives on TV. Maybe we can do it for real, sis. So eventually you all know what's going to happen. They're going to reunite, temporarily at least, and they're going to try to find Monterey Jack. Who is Sweet Pete? And are they going to find him? And are they going to, be friends again? And by the way, what happened to the rest of the Rescue Rangers? We are going to find out that also, sort of. First and foremost, this movie. I like the idea of this movie. The best thing about Chip and Dale's Rescue Rangers is probably the fact that they do a lot of digs at the movie industry and poke fun at, their necessities to, rehash stuff and stuff like that, even though it is kind of like acknowledging what you're doing and then do exactly the same thing is not fixing the problem. Acknowledging that there is a problem, but not fixing the problem is not the same thing. But I digress. So that was very funny. They throw at you approximately 3 metric tons of pop culture references to cover up the fact that they really don't have that much of a story to tell, and they also fill the entire thing with so many cliches that I got seriously annoyed at them at times because they did everything you expect them to do. They took no risks at all, and they did a couple of things that made me go ugh a bunch of times. But I cannot really dislike this movie because it was entertaining, and some of the intellectual properties that they use them in such a clever ways that you go, ha ha ha, that was funny. And I don't remember at all how stale these characters are and how cliched this story is and how predictable it is. So that was one thing they did. Some of the jokes actually landed quite well, and some of the reveals that they did was kind of especially when it comes to Sweet Pete, and especially when it comes to what Gadget and Zipper has been up to since Rescue Rangers was cancelled. That was a big what the fuck? And if you are like me, grown up on the Rescue Rangers and the Disney afternoon things, this movie is pretty much tailor-made for you. Maybe that is why this movie chose 2022 as the year to appear, because enough time has passed since these things were made, so enough of a nostalgia demand has been built up over the years, so they can cash out on it, because this is a full-on nostalgia things. If you liked the Rescue Rangers, you're going to see a lot of things here that you will actually like and laugh at, because some of the things are very, very funny and quite endearing, and some of the things are just disheartening and makes you go, oh no, don't do that. Chippendales rapping was something I never thought I would see and hope I will never see again, and I was a little bit sad when they did it. But is it a movie that you should see? Well, it is kind of a, Roger Rabbit-esque story with, a bunch of, inside jokes and references and stuff like that. And if that is something that you think you will like, you will probably like this movie. This is a pretty safe comedy. In fact, the more I think about it, this is, a movie that is sort of catered towards really an older audience that, grew up on Chippendales and are now, in their 30s or 40s or something like that. This movie could have been a hard R filled with, violence and gore and foul language and stuff like that. That would have actually been something that would have been unique, and you would go, oh my god, they did that! For a shock factor, I think that could have worked, but nah, Disney's never gonna do that. They're not gonna, allow their IPs to do, crazy shenanigans like that. But just imagine if we could have had a Deadpool-style version of Chippendales Rescue Rangers. It's a pretty good pace, and there are some things in this movie that I found was really, really funny, and other things that was really annoying and incredibly cliched. But this movie was still better than I thought it would be. And if you want to, spend 97 minutes of your life watching this movie, you will say afterwards, well, at least it didn't make me angry, and they at least treated most of the characters in a respectful way. So you can't win them all, but I think this is a pretty okay movie. It's pretty harmless, and yeah, it's pretty okay. By the way, how many studios and production companies did Disney visit to, obtain the rights to use their characters? Because there is tons of characters in this movie that Disney do not own. How much of the budget did they use for that? 20-25%? I don't know. Anyway, with a very, very impressive cast of voice actors, a pretty decent bunch of jokes, all wrapped up in a nice nostalgia box, I cannot say that this movie was technically good, but they just throw so much at me that I have to give this movie 40 points. If you've never seen it, I sort of do recommend it, but some people will really like this movie, and some will just be bored and not get the references and simply say, well, this was a waste of time. But for me, I land sort of kind of in the middle. When it comes to my own preferences, I liked the Gummy Bears, Tailspin, Darkwing Duck and DuckTales better than I did with Rescue Rangers, but I still thought it was kind of a fun show. I'll see you next time for Well So and So reviewing, well, such and such. Thank you for watching. Thank you very much.